Marvel versus DC movies, what side are you on?
Here's the thing, Marvel makes better movies, DC makes way better animated movies. DC's animated, going back to the original Justice League cartoon, like in the 2000s,
Mm,
DC's animated content is it's amazing. I
right.
think it's Final Frontier. I want to say the name of it. It takes place in like '68 with Kennedy, and it's a old school origin of the Justice League. That's a great movie. Like it, I don't care. I want to say it's Final Frontier, something Frontier, Last Frontier, Final Frontier. It's amazing. Like yeah, DC makes. I wish DC could make movies like they make their animated shows, and they'd be killing it. They'd be killing
What
it.
did you think about the last Batman?
I wasn't a big fan. The
Oh,
Batman
really?
Superman. Oh, the one.
No,
It
not
was
Batman Superman. The latest one with
the
Robert
Riddler.
Patterson.
The Riddler.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was all right, but I felt like someone really liked the movie Seven, and
We were
and
joking that it's sad, man. He's
yeah,
just so sad.
and he was a good Batman, just a
Mm,
really bad Bruce Wayne. Like he was just so emo.
yeah,
Like yeah,
that's
it's
what we
like
were joking about. Yeah, he's just so goth and oh,
it's because like Christian Bale was a great Bruce Wayne. He just was a cheesy Batman. You know, it's like
yes, exactly.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and on that note, I have
That's
to ask
why
you this one. I feel like those movies don't hold up, minus the scenes with Heath Ledger. I
I
feel like
agree.
Heath Ledger killed
Great.
that Joker role so much,
Yeah,
and then they rode the coattails of that Ledger performance
yeah.
for the rest of the movies, basically.
Well, the thing is, I want to make a quick caveat here because we're talking about people. Spider-Man is my favorite character. Was it Tom Holland? Is that the
Y-
kid that's playing?
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to say I almost cried in Civil War when he showed up as Spider-Man because I was like, someone finally gets this character. Like
Yeah,
he's a great Peter Parker and
he
he's a
is.
great Spider-Man.
Yep.
Because the Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker. He's a shitty Spider-Man.
Right.
Andrew Garfield was a shitty Peter Parker, but he's a great Spider-Man. You know, as opposite. And Tom Holland just if Tom
Yeah, and
Holland,
he's
thank
also
you, thank you.
he's
The 12-year-old in me almost shed a tear because of
yeah.
Tom Holland's performance in
Yeah, and
Civil War.
Holland's cool too because he's athletic too.
Yeah,
He can do all those
it's
jumps
just
and
that
flips and
he gets the personality. The whole thing about
yep.
Spider-Man is, and I hate it's a thing that the Marvel movies have been doing consistently. So Spider-Man is not supposed to fight the Hulk.
Right.
Spider-Man's supposed to fight like Green Goblin. Like like I'm gonna nerd out. Official handbook of the Marvel Universe, Spider-Man can lift press 10 tons.
Mm,
As opposed to Thor, who can do 100 tons. You know, Spider-Man's not supposed to fight these big. That's the Avengers' job.
right.
Spider-Man
He
fights,
uses agility.
and in the movies, like the thing that really pissed me off in the movies is he gets hit way too much. His
Yep.
whole thing is so, and it's done in the comics. If Spider-Man gets punched and knocked through a brick wall, he's hurt. He might have broken ribs. His whole thing is he's like Floyd Mayweather Jr. to where he's so fast you can't hit him. He talks shit the whole time to get you more frustrated, so you start swinging blinder and blinder, and he takes advantage of you and just pummels you down. But
Yep.
if you catch him or if you hit him, it's gonna hurt. Like yeah, that's so anyway. Going back to what was the Batman is the first movie. What was it? Batman Returns. Was that the first one?
And then Michael Keaton? Oh
No, no,
no,
no.
Nolan's.
Yeah, the Nolan.
Oh
Yeah,
geez. The first one is Batman Begins?
yeah. See, the problem with that is, and the new Batman movie tried to touch on it, is again stick to the mythology.
Yes.
There's canon there, and so there's a book, Batman Year One. Go get it. Go get the trade, and it's Bruce Wayne coming back from training, and he's not taking on supervillains. He's taking on just crime people. And the
Yep.
first time out, he kind of gets his ass beat and learns a few lessons. And as he gets better and he gets this one, at the very end of the series, they're like, "Hey, man, there's some dude showing up in a fucking scarecrow outfit." So that and it spawns all these other villains, which they kind of touch on in the movies. But the first Batman that Christopher Nolan, Batman Begins, they missed that whole like it would have been the perfect thing to build up to the Joker. But
Yep.
instead, it was just hodgepodge of Ra's al Ghul and blah blah blah. And yeah, it's like show Ra's al Ghul, drop him off, never mention him again. Have him,
Yeah, and then back to Spider-Man a little bit. What's your take on Miles Morales?
it's I like so okay. Spider-Man into the what was the animated Into the Multiverse or was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I in the theater, I went and saw that, and there's 3 times that there's 3 moments like where it made me why I like Spider-Man. One is the first time I picked up a Spider-Man comic book, and it just happened to be the right issue, and I learned it. The second was I just drew a blank. It'll come back to me. But the
second
third,
moment in Spider-Man love.
yeah, no, the second was when the Hobgoblin story. Like I was like,
Mm,
oh yeah, you're doing it. And the second was the Ultimate Spider-Man series. So it made me feel like a kid. The first 20 issues made me feel like a kid reading Spider-Man for the first time. It's like this is what it felt like to read Spider-Man. The Miles Morales cartoon, same way. Like I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
yeah,
That being said, it's I get what they're doing, but it's what DC did, and it goes back to another thing. It's like every character is unique. So, like the Hulk, Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner was a fluke accident. Anybody who had been caught under that gamma radiation would have died. He
right.
just happened to be that. But now, if you look in comics, there's Red Hulk, there's this Hulk, there's everybody's a Hulk. And it's like,
She-Hulk.
yeah, and same thing with Wolverine. Well, he's got a daughter, he's got this guy, he's got a son. And it's like you're taking away the uniqueness and originality of these characters by trying to say like we need to have a different character for everybody. It's like no, I like the character for that. One of my favorite characters in X-Men is Kitty Pryde. It's a 13-year-old Jewish girl
Yeah,
who lived in New York. I have nothing in common with that, but I fucking love Kitty Pryde. And it's like
yeah.
you should like the character. And while Miles Morales, I like the fact, like again, that movie, and I like the character. It's okay, it is what it is, but Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah,
same thing,
yeah.
like, again, like
I
Clark
love,
Kent is Superman, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like, that's it.
yeah, and again, I love the idea of Miles Morales too. Like, he's Puerto Rican in New York. Like,
Dude,
it's so New York and so perfect
yeah,
for the universe.
and they
I totally
nail
vibe with what you're saying as far as it's lazy to not create a whole new character for him.
yeah, but
Like,
because the thing is, again, that I didn't collect the comic, but I went and saw the movie, and I remember it was Christmas time, like 3 years ago, whenever it came out, and my girlfriend was like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm like, I'm this is amazing. Like, I feel like a kid
yeah,
reading and that's why I appreciate about it. It's like I appreciate that about it. It's like I get that. I just wish that current writers with Spider-Man could understand that and convey that in current Spider-Man stories. Does that make sense?
there almost needs to be a job that's a nerd consultant.
Oh, I would love
That
that.
just goes and you pay them a couple $1,000 for a few days and they just come in and drill you with the canon of things
Yeah,
and
I would
tell
love that.
you what's acceptable and what's not, and it's needed so much throughout. There's so many huge cool properties that have such amazing setups and amazing lore that are given to people who
They don't understand it. They don't know it.
don't understand the canon, they don't understand the story, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal to not understand
It is.
the
Again, it's research.
power of what you're being handed.
Again, if you're doing a movie, say on Alexander the Great. They have done movies on that, but they've been horrible. Like
Can
you need
you
to,
stand up real
you
quick?
need, oh, right here, there you go. Sorry,
Just tilt your camera so you can sit how you want, but
oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, no worries.
if you're doing a movie on any historical piece, Alexander the Great, Benjamin Franklin, whatever, name it,
Yeah,
then do your research. Like actual, don't do a Wikipedia search.
right.
Don't grab a handful of like Google articles. Like dive in, learn the lore, like learn it, and then you can and the product you're going to put out is going to be so much better. Like there's a reason this stuff has been around, especially Marvel has been around since the 1960s. It's because people have wanted it. People have kept it alive. If it was a horrible thing, it wouldn't be
It
around.
would have faded away, right?
Faded away and no one would know about it. So it's like when you get hold of these properties, you have to understand that it's not just a sandbox to be like, oh, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. It's like,
How
no,
how much longer does the run last in your mind? Because I kind of liken it to the old like westerns in Hollywoods, right?
the
There was the
Marvel,
yeah, there was the reign of westerns in early
yeah,
Hollywood, and
I, I
everybody had to do a western.
I think
Uh,
it's gonna be around for a while. It might die off, but what I compare it to when I collected comics is we're in the 1990s phase of movies. So in the 80s, Marvel was got all the classic stories, but then Marvel started to go bankrupt.
right.
And so they sold it to they have a board now. And that's when you started getting like, we're going to try to generate a market now to where we're going to have the gold plated number one, the silver plated number one. We're going to reboot all these number ones to try to generate a market. And they weren't worried about stories. They're trying to more worried about generating a market. And the
Mm.
90s, I hate to say it, 90s kind of sucked for comics. Like, I apologize if people grew up with that, but they weren't great. So I think the movies, they're starting to go through that now, and I hope they pull out because I love the genre. Like, I love the genre.
What do you think is the best era for comics, period? Like, what's the golden era of
It the
what year
golden
to what year is the best year ever for comics?
Oh, 1984. Everybody knows that.
Yeah,
1984 is there was so many pivotal things happened in 1984, like artist wise. X-Men is when X-Men became cool. Fantastic Four started to get these iconic things. Walt Simonson hit the ground. I'm sure there's another era like if you look, I'm sure if you ask somebody younger than us, they'll probably say like the Brian Michael Bendis era, like 2002 or 2000, because he did change the game. Like they were getting stagnant, and he's like, I'm going to shake things up. I'm going to change things around. He did House of M, Secret Invasion, all that stuff. So I'm sure people would say that. But for me, it was the 80s. Like it was roughly 84 to say 86, 88.
mm.
Yeah.